tournament demons. How do you actually overcome your tournament demons? And Ronaldinho was able to do so to actually win the most important tournament of his career and make it into Capcom Cup so far. And Brian, when you had to go up against your tournament demon just to not have to make a simple tweet, you weren't able to get the victory. So I hope that you were able to learn a thing or two by watching Ronaldinho right there, man.
Well, I did. I learned that even though, I win the last tournament match, maybe you lose the long set. And, it depends on what's more important to you, right? So
that's fair.
The tournament set is sometimes, maybe you win the tournament 2-0. Maybe Ronaldinho wins this tournament 3-0 against Jaleshe, and then they go back to practicing and it gets smoked for a while. That definitely happens. And I think that's something that people don't always understand is you can beat people in tournament who can consistently beat your ass. That is a fact.
100%, and it's legitimate wins. It ain't no luck.
Right, and it's not necessarily because they're playing bad or whatever. Like, you can just play a different meta game in a short set versus a training session versus a longer set. And that's the kind of mentality you have to adapt. And you have to, there's a skill to beating players who are better than you. Like, that's something you have to be able to do as a competitor.
But that's not a tournament, and that's something that I wanted to clarify. That is not a tournament demon to me. A tournament demon, for me personally,
like someone who beats you every time.
To me, a tournament demon has always been someone who you guys are on a similar skill level. However, that person always beats you.
Right.
But let's say you going up against, Taquito or something, and Taquito is just literally, like, if you guys go up against other players, a large sample size, Taquito is going to win way more than you're going to win. Like, Taquito places higher on average, XYZ. He's just a stronger player than you. So if you lose Taquito all the time, he's a different league. That's not a tournament demon. It's more so like, okay, we get similar results and stuff, but when we play heads up, you always lose. So Brian, I'm not saying that as a joke towards you or nothing like that. I was saying that literally as
I know, because you're
really
not allowed to say that anymore. Maybe last month or something, not anymore.
But, in all seriousness, as far as how to overcome this, right, you have to identify, this sounds like straightforward at first, you have to identify why you're losing. Sometimes it's a character matchup issue. Sometimes you just don't. Let's say, for example, Karen versus Sagat. That's a matchup that I have been working on so much. And recently, I just went up against, I don't like to be name drop people, but like a few elite, what I would consider elite Sagat players in pretty decently important situations, a tournament, and I was able to get very convincing wins. But just a couple weeks before that, I wouldn't have been able to get it. But it wasn't like as far as overcoming that, it's not like I studied the players and seen their tendencies and made adjustments for that. It wasn't anything like that. I realized, like, okay, and the way you can identify that is the person that you're considering, like maybe you're a demon or whatever it may be, whatever character they play, they're whatever skill level, right? Like, let's say Ultimate Grandmaster or Warlord or whatever. Do you also have a bit of trouble with like a Diamond Sagat as well? Do you have a bit, or whatever your skill level may be, you know what I mean? If you're a platinum, do you have a bit of trouble with the super gold Guile or something like that as well? At that point, there's a high chance that you have to make some type of character matchup adjustments. Now, if you beat everyone else who use these type of characters or whatever, right? Then at that point, that's when, in my opinion, you have to make a player adjustment, and you're gonna have to go in there into the lab. And when I say lab, I don't mean training mode. I mean hitting that replay channel and, make your adjustments from there. It takes a whole lot of thinking.
Yeah, I agree. I like how you mentioned that it's not about people or players who are just better than you, or maybe like you just have to recognize who are your peers. I think that's very important to understand. Yeah. Who are your peers? When are you going against someone who is consistently beating you, but they're your peer? Like, you definitely should be able to win against them, but they're beating you. You need to unlock the secret behind that. Versus someone who you need to graduate to that tier. So for instance, for my personal experience, Idom, on record, I've never had a worse tournament demon in my life, but I also consider Idom to be kind of like the graduating level. Do I think I could beat him if I put in the work? Yes, of course. I'm not putting a mental block on myself saying it's impossible, but I think if I beat him, I'm not going to say he's my demon because he's clearly just a more accomplished player. I need to do the work to get to that level to beat him and earn the right to beat him and like get to that level where I can consistently make that performance. However, I've had other tournament demons. I would consider someone like Shine. I still consider Shine to be a bit more consistent and placed better than me on Just look at the results.
Yeah,
right?
but no, Sean's like a similar.
I felt that he was my peer, the upper boundary of it. But I felt like if I could do some kind of studying, I could be able to get that win over him. And he beat me for forever. And my approach to it wasn't as much as matchup. There's a bit of that, of course, but I felt like our character matchups were fine. Balroggy Boogie, right? In that instance, I just did a lot of thinking. Honestly, thinking. And I do mental replays. I think tournament demons come down to thinking about what's going on. Do you add more of this or take away? For me, a lot of the times you have to think about, when are you getting hit? What are these situations where you're opening yourself up to damage? Should I be pressing this button in this situation? Is it even worth it to overextend or not? Sometimes you play players who just punish all of your footsie habits. Sometimes you need to just eliminate options from your gameplay entirely. That's generally where I found success versus the Shine example. I found if I don't extend myself in neutral, the damage output I get from getting a poke to a knockdown is not worth the mix and pressure he gets from with punishing me and getting that momentum. Just do less and push to the corner. And that was able to finally get me a win after losing like 1,000 straight to him. I finally got a few wins under my belt. Right now, I feel like I understand how to approach him a bit more. Another one for me would be like Space Boy, similar situation. He's still cooking me, but I managed to get more wins when I recognized the sort of the player matchup tendencies of don't overextend, right? So to me, it's mental replays. I often like to pull up physical replays, but I like to be in the shower, like massaging the thoughts into my head. What was he cooking me with? Like those shower thoughts I have are about that dude who beat me in that tournament, that last NLVC. I sit there just mulling the match over and over in my head. And that's how you got to approach it, because if I agree. Focus on the character matchups if it's there, but recognize when it's something you're doing wrong. I think that's something you have to do, and that could be very tough for new players, because I think new players also just tend to kind of flowchart sometimes the same options. You need to be able to break habits. When someone is beating you consistently, they have you downloaded. You need to break the mold and change from there.
If you guys, again, are of a similar skill level as Brian brought up. And a big word that I want to point out, and what you just so eloquently put there, is thinking. And it's so difficult to try to explain to someone how to be creative. There's so much that goes into it, but I will still make my wholehearted attempt. There's this TED talk, I don't remember the exact title, but it's about creativity. And the whole concept is putting yourself in a box. Usually, of course it's think outside the box on it, right? But basically, when you are stuck and you're forced to be resourceful, that's when you become the most creative, because you have no choice but to be. So I'll give you guys some examples, because I think this is the best way to explain this. Lud up against NuckleDu before NuckleDu retired recently. This was like in a NLBC just last year. NuckleDu destroyed all Chun-Li players, so he would have to be considered in G versus Chun-Li. He would have to be considered the tournament demon of any Chun-Li player in the world, Lud included. So the issue in the matchup is that usually Chun-Li wants to control the neutral game with her amazing long pokes, right, and her walk speed. But G has that amazing fireball, especially once he gets to level 2. But pretty much the neutral game was horrendous, so it felt like Chun-Li couldn't really press anything. The risk reward wasn't there. So Chun-Li, but now I don't really have great buttons. The G's anti-airs are great. I jump pretty slow. Lud thought, and what he did was, okay, I won't press anything in neutral. I won't do anything. So the matches became so slow. Dude didn't know dude knew what was going on, but it's not like he had an amazing counter strategy for it. And it made it so that whenever Lud did move to go for a button, for one, he's not really giving up any free damage. And for two, his movement is a lot harder to read, because he's moving so seldomly. And and it was easier for him to pick up on dudes' timings, things of that nature. And he achieved a whole lot of success with this strategy. But notice how none of those things are simple X's and O's. It's more so stuff that you think about, again, shower thoughts, and putting yourself in that box. And if you do that, and again, identify, is it a character issue? Is it a player issue? And as far as addressing it, how can I put myself in this box and be creative? At that point, you'll be able to beat all of your tournament demons.